All right, look, it's the Pay Me No Mind show. My name is Wood. Write Down Boxing slash my podcast. It's always personal. It'll be up on all of those, but I'm putting it here on YouTube so people can get to it here. I like the story, and I think I'm talking to a special person in a lot of respects. So we're just trying to get it out there. But I'm on limited time, so we got to jump into it. I want to introduce unified junior welterweight champion Kaylee Reis. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. You know, always on the move. I'm sitting in the sauna right now at Big Six Boxing Academy, my home gym in Providence, Rhode Island. But I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for your time. Congratulations for everything that you have going on. I know my time is limited, so I do want. I knew something was off. I want to jump into. I want to talk a lot about your movement. So we'll definitely spend a lot of time there, but I don't want to choose between you and that and your boxing, because I do focus heavily on boxing as well. Quick question though, I saw years ago when I was getting started, I believe you and Alicia Baumgartner had some questions. You had made like a big sis advice or something to her on Twitter or something. She was anxious to get going, and I thought you had a statement like, wait your turn or things will happen. It wasn't disrespectful, but it was just big sis stuff. What did you think when you saw her take down Terry Harper a while back?
Oh, I was like, told y'all. That's how I felt, because I met Alicia a couple of years back when I was training in Detroit as part of a sparring partner for Havana Habazin when she was getting ready for Clarissa Shields. And I had the pleasure of training out there in Detroit with them. And, you know, I love a dog, and she's a dog, and she could fight. And I had the pleasure of working with her and sparring with her. And I just knew from when she jumped into the pro ranks, you know, her amateur background, she just comes from a hell of a camp, a hell of a team. And she just is a natural athlete. And she is definitely mogul of the sport. She absorbs everything like a sponge. So I just knew once she got the platform to display her skills, she's not just tall talk. She walks the walk. She punches the punch. And I was like, told y'all, like, I know y'all never heard of her, but the ones who are really boxing enthusiasts, whether it's male or female, knew that she was coming and she meant business. Taking nothing away from Terry Harper, but Alicia Baumgartner is a different type of animal. So I was just like, I know you're anxious, girl. Just wait, because it's going to come. I know it's going to come. And I knew she wasn't going to let that opportunity pass, and she was going to execute the plan as she should and as she did. And now she is on the scene.
Right,
like a bomb.
Exactly. I'm watching the clock here, so I do have a couple more quick boxing questions. Big women's fight coming up that's going to be very important. Maybe we speak again before it. I don't know, but while you're here, Serrano and Taylor, who's your winner?
Yo, man, that fight. There's two crazy good pioneers of the sport. I mean, speaking from experience, I've been sparring Katie since she hopped on the pro scene. She's one of my regular sparring partners, because she comes to Connecticut, and when I'm in Providence, she's about an hour away. So we help each other get ready for fights, and it was dope to be able to work with somebody like Katie, because, you know, I'm almost 14 years in the game now, so I was able to kind of grow as the sport of women's boxing, or the sport of boxing in the female category, was growing, and got to get a taste of what they're like in the amateur ranks coming out of the Olympics. And I was like, oh, we fighting like this. All right, cool. Guess I got to step my game up. So I was, you know, we jump at the chance, and we you know, steel sharpens steel. But I watched Amanda grow from when nobody knew who Amanda Serrano was, or barely who Cindy was. I knew who Cindy was because she's an older fighter, and she kind of was, you know, hot when I first came on the scene. I think that's whoever's night it is, because there's things that Katie does well. There's things that Amanda does well. There's things that Amanda does that Katie hasn't seen yet. There's things that Katie does that Amanda hasn't seen yet. As the analysis goes, Amanda comes out swinging from the opening bell. She kind of settles in and slows down a bit as the rounds go by, whereas Katie warms up, not slower, but she'll figure it out. And she's also has, you know, so many tools. So does an Amanda. So I think it's going to be yo, round 6, 7, 8, or 5, 6, 7 are gonna be like, yo, who's gonna take it there? You know what I mean? The power that Amanda possesses is retarded in all good sense of the word. And Katie too. Katie can crack. She can also take a punch. I'm not a 130 pounder. I'm a 3-time former middleweight, and she's taking my hits. So I don't even want to call who's going to win. I just want to be there because this is history in the making for women's boxing. We're headlining a whole card, $1 million fight. And with females,
Right.
Finally, we're here. I do wish it was 12 rounds, though. 12 twos. I'd like to see 12 rounds. That's my analysis.
Okay. Last boxing question to get it started for this intro. Do you think Setarus and Franchon Crews-Dezurn is kind of being undersold or underlooked a little bit, with that also being an undisputed fight up at super middleweight?
I do, because it's an undisputed fight. It's an undisputed fight in another hot weight class. You know what I mean? So I do think it's being undersold. People who don't follow women's boxing as much know who Katie Taylor is. They know Clarissa Shields is. They know who Amanda is. Unfortunately, Franchon is not as much as a household name as those, but she is one. So is Setarus. Because Setarus, when she fought Alicia Napoleon, that was
Big statement.
Yo, I was what? And I knew she was. I went to that fight too because my husband manages her too. Like, I met Setarus, I was like, well, goddamn, she's a big girl. So I didn't know she was that big. I was like, hi. But I do think it's getting undersold. I do think it's worthy of getting just the same hype. You know what I mean? We got to treat all these undisputed or all these unification fights in the female category as big as the next, so people can get used to seeing that. So I wish there was more highlight on it. But, the fact that people even know, and the fact that you're asking me that question, that's a statement, because we are known more now. So I hope that we just keep rolling in that same direction.
Well, I can't say everybody does it how Bite Down Boxing does it, but anyway.
It is what it is.
We may not be able to work back to it, so I better get it out there now. Actually, do you have a winner in that one? You think Setarus is seasoned enough to deal with everything that Franchon brings, or
no? Franchon's a problem, man. And how do you train for somebody that fights her style? She, to me, I'm not comparing her to this male fighter, but not only because it's my stablemate and a really long time childhood friend, she's like another Boo Boo Andrade. Like, you can't train for Boo Boo. Like, you can't. There's nobody who else do you spar for Franchon but Franchon to get ready for Franchon? You know what I'm saying? She's a dog, another dog. She comes to fight. F the wig. I want the belts. You know what I mean? But Setarus is those European fighters are a little bit different, but she was an amateur Olympian. You know what I mean? So she's seen that. So I think I have definitely Franchon in that. I think Setarus might pose as a problem at first, maybe, but I can't say her size because she fought Big Al. You know what I mean? She took Big Al out, so right. It is what it is. I think Franchon definitely got that.
I like to see Setarus is a beast in the gym. I follow her on Instagram, so I love that she's really she focuses on her fitness, and I think she will be well prepared. I just don't know if she can close the gap skill wise and experience wise.
I think it's going to be close.
Right. I think it's going to be a battle. For you, any timeline on when your undisputed fight could come together? Is there a card or a date, some things falling in place? Anything you can share on that?
Well, I'm definitely gonna kind of let people in on it probably within the next week. Where we have planned on a date between February, April, March area, but things happen. So we don't have a date set yet. The fight is going to happen, but it's probably not going to happen when we planned on it, because I'm taking care of a couple of health issues right now that I've ignored for a long time. That I have to, because number one, I'm not going to do myself like that no more and just not say anything and fight, barely at 50%, but, put on a smile and just take the fights, because that's what I do. I'm not going to do that to the sport of boxing that I love, and I'm not going to do that to my my opponent, my elite fighter champion, Chantel Cameron. So I wouldn't expect anything less than anybody else's 100%. So right now there's no date, but we're going to go into more details probably within the next week, because I think I need to kind of set things a little bit straight. Trust me, I want nothing more than to hop in there and fight for the undisputed title. I've been pro for almost 14 years, and I've been fighting through my very rough and rocky and uphill, downhill battle career that I would never change to get where I'm at right now. So we'll have more information on that soon for sure.
Okay, good deal. Look, let's jump into this movie, Catch the Fair One. I'm a harsh critic, and I don't pull no punches when it comes to my entertainment, whether it's music or movies. I didn't have nothing negative to say about the film, so we can get that out the way. But I really want to talk about it for you, just so people can have a connection of where you are with that industry, or with movies. What is either like your go-to or favorite movie, or what is a role that you would have loved to have played?
That's a loaded question. I can give you the my go-to, maybe kind of off of that movie, of what I watched and what I still watch, and a role that I admire is Hugh Jackman in Prisoners. That movie was a huge, for me, inspiration on just performance wise, and just the context of that movie was insane. Like, especially being in the industry now, in really understanding what it takes to do roles like that, and really having actually shot a movie and knowing the mental capacity that in space you have to be in. Hugh Jackman he's a legend. You know what I mean? I can go on for, I can shout out Viola Davis because she's from Rhode Island, but she's a beast too. There's so many different. I'm a movie buff, but I can't even think of like a go-to. But right now, off the top of the head, especially speaking towards my movie that I did, I think Hugh Jackman is a beast in that movie. That whole cast, even Jake Gyllenhaal, he has another aspect of the whole twisted ass movie that I love. But that was one of the huge motivators that myself and Joseph liked about that. There was music, score wise, content wise, performance wise. I love that movie.
Prisoners.
And
I watch a lot of movies, but that one is throwing me for a loop. So I'm gonna write it down and check it out.
You never seen that movie?
I'm drawing a total blank on that one. Total blank.
It's great. I forgot the other actor's name that plays another lead in it. He actually is in the new Batman. He plays the Riddler. He's in that movie too. It's just watch it and get back to me. It's really good.
I will. You've remained on message about your indigenous heritage and the battles that the community faces on multiple fronts, a lot of tough battles. How did you settle on either this pitch or this concept for Catch the Fire and what it focuses on?
So Joseph, kind of give you a quick rundown. Joseph reached back out to me back in 2017. He, just like a lot of the general population, didn't know anything about missing and murdered Indigenous women. He just kind of started finding out about the Highway of Tears in Canada, and kind of the epidemic that's been plaguing our people since the dawn of time. He's an established director, filmmaker, has a feature film already, done a lot of TV directing. He reached out to me with an idea and kind of a question: do you ever think about acting? Fast forward, he came and just really got to know me, and wanted to know my story, and just his approach on knowing that it was a necessary story to tell, but it wasn't his story to tell. So he wanted to get the perspective of myself and the community that I represent. And he also saw that I do what I can to bring awareness to things like missing and murdered Indigenous women, or the pipelines being drilled through sacred lands, breaking treaties, and the residential school children being found with my boxing platform. If I have a voice, and I have a voice that, these voiceless people being missing and murdered, or these things, this whole native country, as we call it, that nobody pays attention to. We're leading in so many statistics, and we're the first people of this land and any indigenous land around the world, but we're the last thought about. So I do what I can to really represent who I am in the boxing world and just bring awareness. So I believe awareness is a catalyst to change in a lot of aspects. So he just kind of wants to incorporate that. And he had a bare bones script about a woman that lost somebody, a really strong woman that lost somebody close to her. And fast forward to like a 2-year collaboration, he asked me to come on as a creative collaborator, and just really the themes, the perspective. He sat down with my elders. I gave him stories that I knew, personal experiences, the stories I heard from different women and organizations to these different reservations and communities that I visited to speak to and just to listen to. Because when I travel to different reservations, I just, you can speak, but I really want to listen to, because I sometimes just a listening ear, you can learn and they can just heal. And the storytelling aspect, that's our way of healing. We got to tell our stories to pass down information, creation stories, and I think that's just a good way to heal. So that's kind of how it just segued into what we have now. It was a collaboration over 2 years, and I never acted before, but I treated it just like I treat my fighting and anything else I do. I'm a OCD Virgo, so I was gonna do it, go big or go home. And maybe somebody else wouldn't have played this character like I did, but I felt it really to represent my native people, and especially to represent the Northeast woodland tribes and the East Coast tribes, the first contact people that we seem to forget a lot of times, and the anti-blackness everywhere, because I'm Native and Black. I'm Cape Verdean and Indian. Like, you don't see these faces on screen, so it was real important for me to tell this story.
Well said. What was more challenging for you? What was more difficult? The emotion that you had to tap into to have the discussion with Kaylee's mother in her office, I believe, or the scene where you were being kind of chosen with all the girls and they called you grandma, some made some disparaging comments about you, you had to get undressed. Which one of those challenged you more?
I would say the scene with Kaylee and her mother was really close to home in a lot of aspects, and it was challenging not because of the emotional content of it. It was actually kind of cathartic, and there were so many layers to that scene. Number one, she's just trying to get approval from her mother. She's not the fair one. Her dad, clearly they don't have a good relationship. She's the first one. She feels responsible for her sister going missing. She doesn't want to tell her mom what she's doing, but she wants to get acceptance because she's like, look, I'm just trying to do this for us. Maybe finally you'll accept me. My community will accept me. But I will say the most challenging scene that we did was, there was no even spoken words. It was when the character towards the end is looking at her sister before she goes up to fight. And that, to me, I could barely get through that, because I literally do that. Like, I fight with a purpose. I represent my people. And I think of all the missing and murdered Indigenous people, not just women. These young girls is people that I know personally. That just the genocide has been passed down genetically, not even like physically, genetically. I feel that really. I may not feel it strong, but I feel it. And feelings are, I don't care if you're 1,000 miles away, we have the same feeling. So that I could barely get that, because I also know my Niaku, who played the little girl, and it's just, that was tough. There was no words being spoken, but I just knew what it was. That's why that picture, they keep using that picture. I was bawling, like I couldn't get through it. Like, it was crazy. So that was the hardest one.
I think you had a breakout performance in many ways, but was it a benefit to you for another pro boxer, and Shelly Vincent as Brick? The opening portion of the movie, you were teamed up with her, and I'm like, I don't know who that is. I mean, and it was a very natural role for her, training and whatnot. But was that a plus for you to be paired up with her in the movie?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, oddly enough, I've known Shelly for a long time. I call her my little brother sister. And before we shot the movie, we had her as Brick. Like, there's nobody else that could have been Brick. And when we were writing the story, we wrote it for her. I'm like, there's nobody else. And the reason why was because Joseph saw the videos, the goofy ass videos that we always put up, or training, and he saw that we were always together. So even when he came up here to talk to me, he's like, I gotta meet Shelly. And me and Shelly were living together. So I'm like, you can see her. This is how we are all the time. So he just wanted to incorporate that energy in it. And before that, me and Shelly hadn't talked for over a year, because we had murder beef over something really stupid. And that movie actually brought us back together. So it's crazy, because that is my family. Like, I love her to death, but we had a really bad falling out. And right before we were shooting, Joseph was like, you want to give it a shot? I'm like, we could talk to her, but it's either going to go left or going to go right. And as soon as we sat that on the table, we sat down. She was like, what up? I'm like, what up? And we both was like, what up, homie? I was like, you know what I mean? This is us. That's family. So it was a plus, and it wasn't something out of a comfort zone for either of us. So those, doing the pads, it's just something that we do anyway. And then having Matt, my cousin, sparring him, was like, he jumped at the chance to punch me in the face.
Right. So. You being involved with crafting the story and wanting to see this come through perfect, I just wonder who was the favorite castmate that you guys got that really signaled to you how big it could be? Because I mean, Lisa Emery as Darlene on Ozark, damn near iconic character. My mom is crazy about Darlene, and it's crazy that she ended up with a shotgun or a long barrel gun, a rifle. But then Daniel Henshaw played like a sexual deviant character in a series called Defending Jacob. Here he is again on some weirdo stuff. And then Kevin Dunn, we've seen him in several things. So who was brought in and you were like, oh, this is going to be ill?
I mean, starting from Kimberly Guerrero and knowing her as an Indigenous actress was just so comforting to me. And then having Lisa Emery was like, yo, Ozark, what? To meet them outside of their character, she is cool as hell. And then Kevin Dunn is amazing. He's the chillest, coolest. We went out to dinner, we were drinking wine, he's chilling, telling me all crazy stories. But Daniel Henshaw is my favorite. He is such a cool, funny Aussie. I love him so much. He actually came to my last fight before we shot to see me fight, and it was his first fight, and I saw him in Snowtown Murders, and I'm like, you were a creep. But I knew that his performance in that role, because it was so important for us to portray these villains as regular people, and it was more scary and more cringeworthy, the fact that he's, looked like a well-tailored, white-collar white guy. Right. Has a family. That's the reality of the situation. Right. And we knew that he could bring that real cringe creepiness in all the good ways. But, between takes, with cracking jokes, like, he was so supportive. And, me walking into a whole new world. And I know people at first was like, here comes another athlete trying to be an actor. I knew I had a lot to prove again, because I'm always having a lot to prove. But he was so supportive. And we worked on a couple of things, and he was like, oh, it's like watching my kid go to first grade, seeing you kind of grow with this whole thing. So it was awesome. Because we shot some really heavy stuff with him, but it was such a warm experience with Kevin Dunn as well. I mean, we had a crazy scene. I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm pointing the gun at Transformers dad. Like, this is crazy. You know what I mean? Right. But they were so professional and so welcoming and so supportive that everybody in every scene, even if it was for a day, was my favorite at that time. But I gotta say, me and Daniel, like this, that's my homie.
Okay. I'm looking at the movie because we've talked a couple times. The last time we talked in person was in Hammond, Indiana, at that kind of like women's heavy night. Yep. You were calling the fight with Alicia. So I'm looking at the movie to see kind of where Kaylee might have. That's, she directly, I mean, that is here directly because of her. It's something she suggested. The Native American cat that was basically the ops that looked like he was doing the dirty work. I don't know if his name was Jeremiah. Was that a character that you thought like he had to be Native American to really drive home how grimy this whole situation is?
That was something that, because we had like 10 different scripts. Some of the we laugh at it now, like some of the scenarios, I'm like, that was dumb. But like if you look, like, there's so many endings, there were so many scenarios, there was so many other characters that we had, but it was crazy to really start there and end here. And him being Native was a part that I kind of brought to Joseph's attention, but he took it and grasped it, and he kind of really painted the picture. And he's like, what if we do make him Native? Because at first he was going to maybe be like half white, half Native. And I'm like, nah, we're going to go all the way through, because there's a lot of self-hate, not just in Native country. There's self-hate with Asians, self-hate with Natives, self-hate with Black. There's self-hate with every race there is on the face of this earth, and however many more galaxies there are. But I know of it from other Natives or other Black people that self-hate, and it's, it's very prominent. So we mentioned it, we toyed with it, and we really molded it, and we had to make it somebody, because again, it's really, really creepy. So.
Right. I hated that guy, and you need things like that in the movie to make people, the audience, attached to it and whatnot. And I hated that guy.
And we had to make him her first kill too, because she's never killed before. But the fact that it was her first kill and it was her own kind, and she was kind of looking at him like, bro, come on, man, this is us. Like, I'm one of you, kind of a thing. And she had to actually do everything she'd been training for. And the first one was another Native that she's even trying to get accepted from, and she got to kill one. Like, it's so many layers.
I missed that too. I didn't even really catch that. The ending, again, like I said, I'm not trying to curry favor with you because you're on here and tell you I love the movie because you're here. I thought what you what was the director? Joseph. I thought you just told a really smart story and left it really raw and impactful, and you didn't try to do too much. But was there a lengthy discussion that took place on, I'm not going to give away the ending the way that I originally wrote this question down, but was there, you just said it was multiple scripts, but was this ending intentional to kind of allow people or to give them a reminder as they leave the theater. This wasn't just a movie. This is really going on. So that's why it ended the way it ended.
Absolutely. I mean, because we finished 2 weeks before they started shutting things down for COVID, we thought it was going to be the end of the world for post-production, but actually it gave us a chance to explore a lot more and not have to rush to get them into the film festival circuit and everything. So, but we knew, and Joseph uses this quote all the time, it had to be unpredictable yet inevitable. And I kind of had to, when we both, especially him corporately, kind of got pulled in some directions from some suggestions, I kind of had to be like, bro, it's you and me. It got to be real. This is what really happened. So it was a very, very conscious decision. And it could have, we toyed around with other endings, but you've seen those movies before. We wasn't doing this for Hollywood. We wasn't doing a Hollywood ending. Right. We were doing realistic. And I know firsthand, personally, that this is the reality. So the same way that our community has to live with this reality, and no one bats an eyelash when one white girl goes missing, you got it plastered all over CNN. This is the reality. You sit with it just like we've sat with it for centuries. So it was very conscious and very deliberate.
Got you. I think I had other questions, but we're at that. Well, I got 3 more minutes. I guess you mentioned being up at heavyweight, the success that you had up there. You don't have one of these
middleweight, bro.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Like,
middleweight.
Wait a minute.
Sorry. I didn't mean to give you 35
Wait
pounds.
A minute.
You mentioned being up at middleweight and having some success. What's a greater or more rewarding achievement for you at this point? The way you've kind of resurrected your career and had this second act in it, now being a unified champion and having a shot at this undisputed thing, or actually bringing this catch the fair one to fruition?
I believe there's no winner there. They're both equally as effective and impactful to me. Number one, because of the journey I found amidst my boxing career was to doing it for something outside of myself. And the response I was getting from actually the community that I represent, but wasn't enough for. I'm not Black enough. I'm not Native enough. I'm not Cape Verdean enough. I look Spanish, I look Asian and stuff. But now the very community that kind of tried to judge me because of the way I looked, because of the perspectives of the very people that took land and everything else away from us, are now kind of accepting and really like, yo, she does it for us. Wow, that's, I'm hopefully a positive role model for these, future generations, current and past generations as well. I've gotten I still get so many emails from kids, from parents. I've gotten suicide letters. I've gotten everything. Oh, you saved my life because I saw you fight in HBO. I see how hard you're repping. That you can take every belt I've ever won. You can strip me of every title and say I was 0-22 and I sucked. But that is more rewarding to know that maybe I gave somebody some hope that to get off the path they're on and really that we're worth something. That means more to me than any money, than any belt. And then to actually have this idea become reality, because it's still weird to go on Amazon Prime and be like, oh, that's me. Oh, wow. And just because of the context of it is, and it's also able to touch so many other people in a different way other than boxing. It's a movie. Everybody watches movies. They're just both equally as impactful to me. And I think it's the way I'm able to kind of segue and use things from boxing and acting now. And boxing's not forever. I know that. My body weary. I don't want to be getting punched in the face too much longer, and able to kind of really make a smooth transition into something that I'm actually enjoying and maybe okay at is pretty dope, but have the same purpose. I still have the same purpose with something else. So that's pretty dope.
Okay. I'll let you get out of here. Quick last question. Have you watched the movie, or did it take you a while to watch it? And actually, because I've heard of some artists or actors who don't like to watch themselves on film. You've watched your fights, I would imagine. Was it difficult?
I don't like watching my fights immediately. I'm one of those. I'm like, I already know what I did, because even if I knock the girl out, I know what I did wrong. I know y'all are yelling at me, but I watched the movie over and over again because I was part of post-production. So from the very first cut, I knew I was getting sent cuts and watching and having ideas. So I watched the movie over and over. The first time I watched it then it was finished, was when we premiered in Tribeca. And although it was outside, was dope because it was on a big screen. It was dope. But the very first time I got to watch it in a theater inside was in France, in Deauville, France, when we was in that film festival. I thought, it's a regular movie theater. There's not going to be too many people. It was the biggest movie theater in the world, and every seat was filled at 10 a.m. I was like, oh my God. That, I wanted to hide, but I watched it. And I'm very proud of it. I'm really proud of it.
Okay. Hey, congratulations again.
Thank you.
Kaylee Reis, junior middleweight, unified junior welterweight. Junior welterweight champion, Kaylee K.O. Reis.
We'll definitely do this again when we're not mixed up and I have a little bit more time to kind of explore everything. It was amazing. I love talking to you. So we'll definitely do this again so we can catch up some more.
Okay, thanks, sis. And best of luck to you when this fight does get made. I'm rooting for you.
Thank you so much. You have a good day and a good rest of your time. Thank you. Bye.
Hey, look, that was Kaylee Reis. That's straight up my alley. Boxing and movies, phenomenal. So, like I said, I've talked to her a couple of times over the last few years. You don't remember, she might have had a bigger splash on the boxing scene as Cecilia Breckhus came over, First Lady of Boxing, it's her nickname. But when she came over and made her debut in the States, HBO had women's boxing on. It was one of the last cards they had, or might have even been the last one. But Kaylee Reis was her opponent. She dropped Cecilia Breckhus, and in the mid rounds, round 3 through 5 or something, and it was a close fight. I'm not so sure if Cecilia came back and did enough to win it, but she got the decision. And I think on air, Breckhus told in a post fight interview, she said that she would give Kaylee a rematch, and of course that never happened. It's boxing. Of course that never happened. Even though millions of people saw her say it in the ring, it never happened. So I just tip my cap to Kaylee for keeping her head down and to keep rolling with the punches, And like I said, she was a world champion up at middleweight, dropped down to junior welterweight, and has become a champion again. Was able to take advantage of the DAZN, getting involved with women's boxing, kind of parlaying what it's done with the women in Europe or the UK. And they've had this tournament going on. It's just a 4-person tournament. On the other side was Chantel Cameron and Mary McGee out of Gary, Indiana. Mary McGee lost. And then Kaylee Reis took out Jessica Camara in a very physical, very grueling. They stood and traded. Both women marked all up and everything. It was a scrap. But she prevailed, and now, like I said, we're awaiting them to announce the finale. Her and Chantel Cameron for all the belts at 140. The movie, Catch the Fair One. I did a review of it on here. You can go back and check out that video for yourself, get my thoughts on it. I liked it. Again, that's not because she gave me some time. Now, did I sit down? Because I live in Dayton, Ohio, and I drove an hour down to Columbus to watch the movie at the one theater in my state that I could see it in. So I get down there, and did I sit down in my chair with apprehensive or some trepidations? Like I put it out, because I put it out there on Instagram that I was going to watch it, and I mentioned it on Afternoon Wood. I talked about the movie. Was I sitting there nervous, like, if I don't like it, do I just bury it and never bring it up? Or do I say what I want to say? And to sit there and watch it, I was in awe. I was in awe of the idea being all coming together in the execution, and knowing what Kaylee has persevered through, and seeing someone do a lot with very little, or making a way out of no way, as many people often have to do. and I had to salute her for that. So while it may not be an Oscar winner, a leading lady nomination and all that, movie of the year and all, it's not a West Side Story or anything like that. But I thought it was worth the money. And if she might have alluded to it, I didn't ask her where you can watch it. But she just said it's on Amazon Prime right now. So I don't know if you can watch that for free or part of the subscription, or maybe it's $7.95 or $4.95 or whatever to check it out. But anyway, I appreciate her 3,000% for coming on here and giving me a little over 20 minutes. I had to condense my questions down that and try to keep it rolling, but I appreciate her time. So Kaylee KO Reis, catch the fair one. Keep an eye out there for when she'll be back in the ring on DAZN Boxing. Get out of here.